How would you feel about a 4 federal level stimulus check to everybody in the nation, $1,000? Well, the stimulus check update represented as $1,000 for every American over Ukrainian act. And what they are saying is the $14 billion that was supposed to go to Ukraine. It could be better if we took the money and we gave it to the American people. A bill that set gas price limits and prevent exploitative costs. How is it heading to the House for a vote? Nancy Pelosi, who had just announced this, they are making efforts right now to combat these gas prices, and one of the suggestions is having these stimulus checks. And there are also proposals coming out for baby formula stimulus checks. We've had gas stimulus checks, now baby formula, and people are wondering about federal stimulus checks. And we are having state, country, and city stimulus checks going out to people as well. There's a lot of stuff happening. This week is going to be a busy week in Congress, where stimulus checks and reducing gas prices as tickling these headlines, guys. A bill that would set the gas prices limits and prevent exploitative cost is heading to the House for a vote. Nancy Pelosi announced that a bill would crack down on exploitative gas prices, trying to help out those companies. We are hearing that as oil is dropping, the gas prices are staying up there and they are bringing in record profits, just taking advantage of the situation. The bill is going to be heading to the House for a vote, but it is unlikely to garner enough necessary support from Republicans. Pelosi and other Democrats said oil companies are taking advantage of an international crisis. Now, take a look at this article. Congress will vote next week on a bill that could prohibit excessive gas prices. The legislation could be enable President Joe Biden to issue an emergency energy declaration, making it illegal to increase gas and home energy prices in an exploitative manner. The bill titled "The Consumer Fuel Price Going." The act would give the Federal Trade Commissions the authority to crack down on oil companies with over $500 million in annual consumer fuel sales. A press conference announcement, which we are going to take a look at the legislation on Thursday. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said price gouging needs to stop while families are struggling to pay higher prices as the boom oil and gas companies are recording record profits. This is major exploitation of consumers because this is a product that consumers must have. Next week, we will have another piece of our lower cost for the American people legislation. For House Democrats, led by Congresswoman Mitrier and Porter, introduced the Consumer Fuel Price Gouging Prevention Act. For families that are struggling to pay higher prices at the pump, oil and gas company are recording record profits, with 7 largest oil companies announcing buyback that could total $41 billion this year. Sometimes, when the cost of oil gas drops, oil prices drop and price gouging needs to be stopped. This major exploitation of the consumer because this is a product the consumer must have. Again, the building take high at the boom is a part of this, and you could think the oil companies could compensate for that rather than exploit the opportunity, and this bill gas price gouging and needs to be addressed, including new tools at the FTC to address those abuse. Bill enable to the president to issue an emergency declaration, making it unlawful to increase gas and home energy prices in an exploitative and excessive way, which is part of the business plan for these companies. That's legislation coming out this week to help with the price going of the oil companies. We are also hearing about requests for $1,000 stimulus check in place of the $40 billion supposed to Ukraine. Stimulus check update representative urged $1,000 for every American over Ukrainian act. Republican Representative Jim Banks, a Republican, has suggested that it would be better to give each American $1,000 rather than providing Ukraine with the new aid package due to be passed in the Senate. Now, Banks, who represent Indiana's 3rd Congressional District, told Fox News on Friday that the near $40 billion in aid that has been approved by the House of Representatives could be used to give Americans $1,000 checks. However, the cost of giving each American $1,000 would be significantly higher than $40 billion. The population is currently more than 332.6 million according to the US Census population clock, which would mean that the cost of that would be more than 332.6 billion. So we have roughly a little over a tenth of what would be needed to send out $1,000 checks. Banks said that $1,000 for every single American is equivalent of 40 billion. And with what's going on in America right now, I'd be happy Americans get back on their feet, that sending the money abroad with no strings attached for foreign countries. The congressman said, if the 40 billion aid package for Ukraine were divided up among all Americans, each person would actually receive around $120. So, like we mentioned, a little bit more than 1/10 of what's actually needed to send out $1,000 stimulus checks. Now, the IRS reported its progress update for the fiscal year 2021 that had paid out more than $800 billion to Americans across the three stimulus checks in 2020 and 2021. The last one was for $1,400, and that ones were roughly $400 billion to send out those $1,400 checks. That draft has the amount of aid that the US has provided to Ukraine. In March, Congress has provided $13.6 billion, while the current $39.8 billion packages have not yet been passed in the Senate. Banks voted against the latest aid package on Tuesday, joining the 56 Republican colleges of heads who opposed the measure. There has been significant speculation about a full federal level stimulus check, as individual states are now continuing to provide their own stimulus payments and other measures like tax rebates.